What are some of the things that you have? I mean, we can get caught up in the science and things like that, and we can talk about, evolution and all these different things. But what have you personally been seeing? Because I know you actually work with a lot of people. You are suggesting this diet to a lot of people. Are you actually like coaching people with this diet and stuff like that too? And what have you seen the diet do, in your opinion, that it's actually doing for people?
Yeah, well, so I do have a practice outside. So I'm a neurosurgical resident, and so that takes up a lot of my time. But when I do have a free sort of day, weekend, or what have you, I work in a private practice in a functional medicine, metabolic health clinic. And so we have a lot of lifestyle interventions as part of our treatment. We're trying to get people off of medications. We're trying to get them well so they don't need all the interventions and surgeries and medications and things like that. And we're quite successful at that. And diet is a major, major part of that. Diet and lifestyle, exercise, things like that. Fasting sometimes, for dependent on the situation. But found that getting people obviously on a whole foods diet is going to improve things a lot. I find that getting people when we can get them onto a carnivore diet, they help their health dramatically. We have a lot of obese patients that come in and need help with that, and this is very helpful for weight control and reducing excess body fat, feeling better in general. And then we have a lot of people that just come in because they're just not feeling great. They're just not. They know something's off, but they're not bad enough to have just a diagnosis like this person has this disease, And so generally, endocrinologists, you either have absolutely, no cortisol and you have Addison's, or you have way too much and you have Cushing's. Anything in between is normal, whatever. I don't want to deal with it. And so obviously you can be very unwell and not feeling great if that's slightly off. And so those are people that we end up catching up because they're like, look, something's wrong. My doctor's telling me I'm fine, but I know I'm not fine. And then they'll come to us and we'll see, actually, like, this is a little off and this is a little off and this is a little off. And you're sort of borderline on all these sorts of things. And we try to help them out and optimize their health in those sorts of ways. And it does help. And I find that just a carnivore diet, or at least a meat heavy diet where we're sort of eliminating out a lot of other things, and certainly eliminating out processed foods and a lot of carbs, like even just trying to do a ketogenic meat-based diet is very helpful. We have a lot of patients with autoimmune diseases. I've yet to see an autoimmune condition not benefit dramatically from this sort of elimination diet. And you can think of it as
even without 100% adherence.
Yes,
like if someone's like 80, 90,
it will help. A lot of the autoimmune patients, though, they need to be a little more strict. And so, I think you guys are all familiar with like Michaela Peterson, how she really has to be very strict. She can't even have some meats like pork will set her off and give her a flare up. Yeah. And I think it probably has a lot to do with what the animal is being fed more than the meat itself. But for whatever reason, they have a problem with that. So people with autoimmune issues, certainly getting rid of all the processed stuff and a lot of the carbs and even a lot of the plants. And certainly for people with gut issues like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, getting rid of the fiber is actually very helpful. And there actually are studies in the current literature showing that. There was a study looking at people with Crohn's disease, which is, if people don't know, it's very, very, very difficult to deal with. You get a lot of inflammation in your gut from your mouth to your anus, and it can affect you anywhere. And you get these bleeding sores and blisters inside you, and it's painful. Damn. And so people have, bloody diarrhea, 15, 20 times a day, and it's very harmful. And so you put them on corticosteroids like prednisone or prednisolone, and that has to calm it down. You have all these big, heavy biological medications that will keep them in suppression, like immune suppressant sort of drugs. And they're very expensive, and they're quite toxic in very real ways. They have a lot of side effects. But that's the only sort of way these guys can function sometimes.
Paraproject family, how's it going? Now, Piedmontese Beef is a company we've been eating literally for years now because they have some of the best beef on the market, tons of cuts, tons of different types of beef. Check them out. Andrew, where can they get it?
At Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com. And at checkout, enter promo code POWER to save 25% off your entire order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
But there was a study looking at, well, there's two studies. One was looking at an elemental diet, which is like a pure elimination diet, gets you down to this. It's very highly processed, these elemental things. It's just in a can, and it just has all like the macro and micronutrients that you might need. It has nothing else, right? And they find that putting people on that elimination diet, that elemental diet, and just removing all the other stuff is a better treatment to get people out of an acute flare-up of Crohn's than the steroids like prednisone, right? And that's like goes. I mean, that's the best treatment, is putting them on prednisone. It just really just stops it pretty quick. Just not eating that stuff was better than taking the steroids. It had all the side effects. There's another study that compared two groups, looking at ketogenic, no fiber, no carb group, and comparing that with people who just ate whatever. They ate carbs and fiber. The group that eliminated carbohydrates and fiber, this is again for Crohn's disease, found that they kept people in remission on average 51 months. Okay, so for years, right? Compared that to the group that had was eating carbs and fiber, they stayed in remission on average 0 months, right? So it's a very big contrast. And so what does that tell me? That tells me that there's something in the food that we're eating that is triggering these diseases. And that's sort of my thesis here, is that a lot of these chronic diseases that we're treating these days, like autoimmune diseases, like Crohn's, rheumatoid arthritis, that these are not diseases per se. It's not something you can catch from somebody. But this is an exposure relationship, right? We're being exposed to something that's causing an effect, right? So you have lead pipes, you get lead poisoning. In ancient Rome, they had this problem. People were getting sick. They didn't realize what was going on. So you had generations of people just being a little off, and then they figured it out, right? And so I think we're living in our period with lead pipes. We're getting exposed to a lot of things that our bodies aren't used to, or not really capable of dealing with in such volume, and we're getting the effects of that. So I really think that these chronic diseases are not diseases per se, but toxicities and malnutrition, toxic buildup of a species inappropriate diet, eating things that we're not biologically adapted for and can't process properly. And so we get these problems. And also a lack of species-specific nutrition. We're not getting enough of what we need. Namely, we're eating a lot of plants that we don't actually have the proper mechanisms to break down safely in the volume that we're eating them. And we're not getting enough meat, because I think that's where we get, all of our primary nutrition. And so I think of a steak as that elemental diet that has all the nutrients you need. I don't think that it has anything that you don't need or don't want. I don't believe that saturated fat and cholesterol are bad for you. In fact, I think that they're quite good for you. And I think that's what the literature shows. And so if you're eating just a steak, an unadulterated steak, that is that elemental diet. You're just getting the core nutrients that you need and nothing else. And that's exactly what I see in practice, is that you see these people come in and they have all these problems. You eliminate out all of these other things. They're just eating meat, and generally red meat and water is what they work best on. And they just go away. I've all of my patients with Crohn's specifically will improve significantly symptomatically within a couple weeks, and they'll just keep getting better. Every single one so far, after about 3 months, they'll get a biopsy on colonoscopy. I have yet to see someone not have complete remission of Crohn's or ulcerative colitis by 3 months on a carnivore diet.
Power Project family, we appreciate you checking out this clip. Check out another one. Just go check out another one. Or comment down below and let us know what you liked about this one. But we love you guys, and we're going to keep bringing you the heat. So comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff, okay? Peace.